Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Cherry Chen, your nonprofit CFO, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey. This podcast dives into the real world of nonprofit leadership, sharing inspiring stories, experiences, and the truth about what it takes to operate a nonprofit successfully. Think of this as your mastermind session on the go. Now, without further ado, please welcome today's nonprofit leader. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Nonprofit Podcast, where we are forming a platform to enable executive directors and nonprofit leaders to mastermind among each other. And today I have a special guest, Emily Jones, join me from Connected Canadians. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Yes, Emily. Through our earlier conversation, I find that you are having a busy life. Tell us how busy you are.
Oh my goodness. It's hard to describe exactly how busy I am. I think my husband could probably give you the best perspective on that. But besides running Connected Canadians, I'm also an assistant professor teaching stream at Carleton University, where I work in the School of Business. I teach entrepreneurship there, and I also run a little experiential learning group called the Sprott Social Impact Hub, where I help students work with charities and nonprofits, allowing them to do meaningful work experiences and apply their skills that they learned in university in a real world environment. I'm also finishing my PhD.
Oh, wow.
I do a whole bunch of other things too. So.
And then there's the DJ as well, right?
Yes, exactly. So, yes, that's a little bit more occasional now. I definitely used to do that a lot more when I was younger, but I still enjoy doing the occasional DJ gig when I get the opportunity.
That's crazy busy. I don't know how you handle all these different aspects of your life. Now, back to Connected Canadians first. You are the CEO, co-founder of Connected Canadians. And that's providing a super needed to me, super needed service, because you're teaching seniors how to use apps and technologies. Because my mom's not that, to me, she's not really senior. She's really capable. She is about 65 this year. She's still relatively young. She's very mobile, but then when it comes down to using the phone, if she has to send anything over to me, she has to go to the bank. The teller is telling her exactly step by step how to use it. And so is my dad. I don't know, I don't have an app to online banking at all. So you're providing something like that's much needed in the community. What got you started this?
So my undergrad was in computer science, and as a result, I don't know if it was specifically, I think it was, I just seemed to have a lot of older people in my life who used to ask me for technology help. And I think they just thought of me as a non-threatening source of support. And so they could call me and get help. And I volunteered helping seniors with various technology issues for probably about 15 years.
Wow.
I also, during that period, worked for a few charities that were focused on digital skills for youth and for women and many others. And in those experiences, I just felt that it was also really necessary for seniors to have similar support. And I had an experience. I moved to Italy for a few years, and during the financial crisis of 2008, I lost my high-tech job at the time, and I ended up volunteering for an NGO. It was a Cambodian-Italian NGO that was run by a bunch of seniors, and they basically said, Emily, if you can help us with all of our technology needs, you can move into our house. And, they basically gave me their daughter's bedroom and gave me, food to eat. And so I kind of was like an adopted member of their family. And in that experience, I just learned how important it was, how technology could help somebody who was, I wasn't an Italian. I was a Canadian with a really terrible accent when I actually spoke Italian. And, I didn't feel super included in their society, but being part in that effort, being able to work with the Italian seniors and their family I really started to feel more part of their society and their community, and that was sort of, I guess, one of the seminal experiences that help me understand with Connected Canadians as well, because after I ended up moving back to Canada,
Mm,
I realized as well that many new Canadians really wanted those similar types of experiences to feel
yeah.
part of Canada, and so being able to hire folks when we have the funding to do so, or to recruit folks and have them work as volunteers who are new immigrants to Canada. It's really wonderful because it allows them to work with Canadian seniors. It allows
Mm,
them to build those bonds, to feel part of Canada, and to really use those skills that they have that they might not otherwise be using. And because a lot of the folks that do work with us here in Canada often have skills jobs that are not commensurate with their skills and backgrounds, and so they'll be driving Ubers and working at Tim Hortons, and
yeah.
but then they'll have like masters in electrical engineering
Yes.
and PhDs in computer science. And so similarly, just as I at that time had, was working in Italy and using my skills, I was able to kind of in turn sort of give that experience back to folks here. And so a secondary mandate of our organization, obviously, besides helping seniors with digital skills,
Mm.
is also kind of giving that sort of home experience to newcomers so that they can start developing those bonds and community sharing experiences too.
Wow, wow. So how did you raise funds for, like, how do you earn revenue? Because these are services offer all for free, right?
Yes.
But you still need an operation. So as we all know, all nonprofit is a business on its own.
Absolutely, and I can tell you for sure the first couple years were really tough. I have always, nearly always, I think there were a few months when I was just studying, but almost the whole time when I've been running Connected Canadians, I've also had a full-time job
Mm.
doing something else. I've never taken a salary from Connected Canadians, but thankfully we're in a position now to pay employees who work during the day as well.
Mm.
When we first started, obviously, me and my co-founder were funding Connected Canadians mainly from our own salaries.
Mm.
And then as we managed to gain more credibility in the community and make people realize, hey, we're actually doing a really needed service, we started off getting a few community grants and things like that, which we were extremely grateful for. And now we've got partners all over Canada. We do a combination of we still get a little bit of grant funding. TD Canada is
Mm.
one of our great partners. And actually, coming back to the financial
Yes.
thing that you mentioned, we designed an online banking program with TD as well,
Oh.
specifically to help older adults learn how to do online banking and to help them feel more comfortable asking for help with us. And but we also do a whole bunch of different custom training. So we realized over the years that we really had this expertise in working with seniors because of the folks that we had working with us. And we, for example, we developed a senior-friendly customer service training for Rogers
Oh,
Communications, and
awesome.
we sold them a little over 2,000 licenses to train their Ignite technicians on how to work with seniors more effectively. And we heard a whole ton of positive feedback because we realized that at a certain point, over 85% of the technicians that were working in Chartwell homes had been trained by Connected Canadians.
Oh,
And
that's amazing.
the difference was huge because all of a sudden, instead of just like potentially dumping a router in an apartment and leaving it,
Yeah.
they would actually spend the time to kind of get to know the customer that they were working with and the level of digital literacy that they were at, to be able to help them to use whatever device that was being installed more effectively, and access the internet
Yeah.
and the tools that they have. So, and in turn as well, working with Rogers was pretty cool because they could also give when it was a customer-owned device and they needed more support, they could also call Connected Canadians to get more help as well too. So yeah, Rogers was a big one. We've also worked with Amazon.
Mm.
We were the first certified solutions provider for Alexa Senior Properties, and we did a little pilot project at Briere Village in Orleans. And we're just kicking off a grant with Best Buy as well.
Mm.
And it's a study with AgeWell. Yeah, I mean, we've got a number of big corporate partners, but ultimately we're really focusing on kind of getting our senior friendly customer service training out there.
Mm.
We're also launching a new program this year as well, too, with cyber safety for seniors and the folks
Mm.
that work with them, because we realized after many years of being receiving those calls where somebody feels like they've been compromised, and the phone call, the way they describe it is always, "I've been hacked," and that can mean such a variety of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And but the feeling that they have is usually it's so vulnerable, and they feel so compromised and upset. And just learning how to deal with folks in that way to be able to support them, not only with the technical aspect, but also the emotional side,
Mm-hmm.
is something that we're working on, and we're launching in about March as well. So we're really excited about that one too, because it's very important for us, especially with any potential change in government, to be able to have multiple sustainable ways of funding our free of charge services.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I don't know what to say to that. I have so much that I want to add, but it's so exciting that you're launching this program. It's so timely. Adam and I were just talking about like how people are scamming
Hmm.
online, and as a matter of fact, we have my business partner's brother worked at the Apple Store,
Hmm.
and constantly there are people coming into the Apple Store, mostly elderly, and trying to just buy Apple gift cards.
Yes.
And then and my business partner's brother would be like, well, do not listen to those scammer and try as hard as possible. But they wouldn't listen. All they want is just someone to talk to.
Yes.
And so they still committed to buying the gift card and immediately turn around and send it to the
Yeah.
person they've been talking to. And the
Exactly.
money's gone.
Exactly. The romance scams are a huge thing that we deal with, and I've spent a lot of time also dealing with the folks who have been scammed on those types of things, and it 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 makes me so angry when I see that type of thing. I've
Mm,
seen really, really awful situations of that, and it's so true. They're taking advantage of the fact that
yeah.
somebody just wants someone to talk to, who will listen to them and spend time with them. And one of the victims of that I spoke with, like, she was aware at a certain point that she was being
Yeah.
scammed, exactly, but she was like, no, like, he listens to me.
Yeah.
That's why with Connected Canadians, we are very, very focused on providing not only the technical element, but we also want to provide the human element, of connection to, and we are very intentional in our naming,
Yep.
because
Yeah.
the connection it's an emotional connection too. It's a social connection. There's so many different ways that humans can connect. And so yes, we're using that technical means as sort of a neutral vehicle for
Yes.
connection,
Yep.
but we really, really want relationships to come out of it, in the sense that we're building that sort of mentor-mentee, but also reciprocal mentoring on both sides. We have seniors
Yep.
who have knowledge to share about Canada, especially with our newcomers, and then we have folks who have digital skills to share, to make people feel more confident and comfortable and able to contribute to communication in society.
Yeah. Hello, Unfiltered Nonprofit listeners. It's Cherry Chan here, your host and the CEO of Otis Financial Solutions. Let's talk about something that can be a major headache for many nonprofits: managing your finances. Are you feeling overwhelmed by budgeting, financial reports, or keeping up with compliance? You're not alone. Many nonprofit leaders struggle with these issues too, but you don't have to. At Otis Financial Solutions, we specialize in making financial management easy for nonprofit leaders and associations leaders. For over 18 years, we've been turning financial stress into peace of mind. Our services are designed to meet your unique needs, from day to day bookkeeping to strategic financial planning. Imagine having more time to focus on your mission, knowing that your finances are in experts' hands. If that sounds like something you need, I'm offering a no obligation 20-minute consultation. Let's discuss your challenges and explore how Otis can help you achieve your goals. Visit nonprofitcfo.ca to book your call today. Let's simplify your financial management together. Yeah, absolutely. Like, thank you for doing what you do. Um, Another question just popped up. Like, you are the co-founder, so you have been on this journey for the longest time, and you've been funding the organization for the first couple of years, and now you have big corporate partners. How did you start doing, like, decide to make that decision to, hey, community grants are great and fantastic, but they may not be sustainable? And how do you, when is the pivotal moment that you decide to, hey, I need to do something more to drive something that's at least to get the cause going?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's a great question. And actually, it was in large part a community grant that put me on that journey. We
Mm.
were the recipient of community economic development grants from the city of Ottawa for
Mm.
2 years in a row, early on during COVID. And one of our first grant was one that I wrote really I wrote it in about 24 hours after the lockdown,
Mm.
because I thought about, because I had worked as a DJ for so long. I was very familiar with the staff who were working in bars and restaurants in
Mm.
Ottawa, especially the places that I used to play at. And I was thinking about those folks who now had, they didn't have work to do, and they had such amazing people skills and talents that they could share with others. And so I thought, hey, what if I can convince the city of Ottawa to help me train these folks on technical skills to be able to support isolated seniors, because obviously, if COVID is
Mm.
a thing right now, and this shutdown is going to last long term, people are going to need these skills on both sides. And so, very, very thankfully, we won that grant, and I was able to train. I think we had 21 or 22 mentors
Wow.
from the food service industry, bartenders, food servers, all kinds of folks, chefs. Um, People that were, very, very hard workers, very good with people,
Mm.
who, maybe weren't the most technical, but I designed a really robust technical program to be able to give them the skills that they needed to be able to safely support seniors, because
Mm.
obviously Connected Canadian security is very important to us. And I wanted to make sure that anybody that we sent out had a very firm grounding, not only in the social skills side of things, but also in security. And so, that process was actually what kicked off the ability for us to start creating custom training for other organizations. Because I thought, as I was training this, I interacted. There was a lovely retirement home in Nova Scotia,
Mm.
and their staff, they were actually talking to me. They're like, Emily, like, you've created this program for all these other people. Like, could you sell this to us so that we can train our staff too? Because, like, they need these skills as well. And
Yeah.
it was a slightly different context. These were not bartenders and servers. These were people working in a nursing home, with more of a healthcare background. But they also needed to be able to understand how to support seniors in ways that
Mm.
they would understand, in a way that made them feel comfortable and safe, and with the sort of security skills and background necessary to do so safely. And so, with that very first sale of at that time, I think we were just calling it our Train the Trainer program.
Mm.
It made me realize the value that our training could have, and the organizational expertise that we had sort of built up over the years,
Mm.
and how we could combine. And honestly, like, I felt that working with the servers and the bartenders taught me so much too, because we were able to incorporate sort of like a steps of service approach in terms of being able to help seniors in a way that was, perhaps, no pun intended, a bit more palatable, and just to kind of make them think. We wanted the experience to be more like a fine dining experience, as
Mm.
opposed to calling, some personality-less call center where,
Yes.
the person sounds bored and, not excited about talking to them. And so, making it have that same sort of feeling of like a really positive food service industry interaction, as opposed to a tech industry interaction. That was a huge thing for me, and that was something that we've always tried to incorporate from those first trainings onward into every training that we do with every other organization. And so now we've trained all sorts of big organizations and
Mm.
smaller ones too. We did a cool training with Baycrest Hospital over the summer
Mm.
in Toronto, and Markham Public Library, and a
Wow.
whole bunch of different, all over the country. We've got folks now. And so, generally, just making the society in general aware that, seniors are a very, very important part of our population now. And, not only do they have a lot of spending power, but they also have a lot of knowledge that they
Mm.
can continue to contribute, provided that they know how to use the tools available to them. And so that's why I see this as so incredibly necessary.
Yeah, that's a fantastic share. Um, I really appreciate, like, I come to appreciate as you speak more. I come to appreciate the naming convention of the organization. Connected Canadians is amazing. So take me back to the point, if you don't mind. the point that, hey, like you train this senior home in Nova Scotia, and then and actually it's a perfect segue as well, because we talked about your teaching and your what you're teaching in Carleton. Maybe we can start there before I
Sure.
link it back to the Nova Scotia experience. So you teach entrepreneurship
Hmm.
in Carleton,
Yes.
which is crazy enough. But you're not applying what you learn in the traditional sense to start your own business, but you're applying what you've learned together with your students
Yes.
on nonprofit. That's so amazing. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Carleton.
Absolutely. So, yes, I think I was originally hired as a project-based experiential learning instructor. I've since my title's now changed to I think it's assistant professor teaching stream. And so I run a little group called the Sprott Social Impact Hub,
Mm,
where I'm the director there, and I help students basically do consulting projects with charities and nonprofits, helping them
mm,
with specific issues. And depending on the skills that the students have, generally right now we have a lot of business students. We have a few other folks too, but we do accept students from any faculty. So if we get industrial design students, we would modify the program a little bit to work for them and to be able to use their skills too. But ultimately, we want to talk to our charity and nonprofit clients and help them in an area where they need some support. And we understand, students, this may be their first time working with a client,
yeah.
so based on that, we also I do my best to make sure that I set the expectations fairly clearly with clients and
Mm,
to make sure they understand, everything that you get is not going to be incredibly polished. We do our best to make sure that it is.
mm,
But, this is a very valuable learning experience, and you can get many people hours of actual research work, whether it's market research, or just going out and calling people and finding out, customer interviews, all of those
yeah.
types of things. You can get a whole ton of really valuable feedback and research from students. And this year, I've got students working with 4 different charities and nonprofits. Each of them has a very different mandate,
Mm,
but they're all doing really, really cool things. And one of the ones I'm most excited about is a charity in Milan that we're working with right now called Solitaire. And they help kids with cancer in conflict afflicted
mm,
regions. So, kids in Gaza, kids in the
mm,
Ukraine, folks that are, all other places too, but places where, they're not only dealing with cancer, they're also dealing with like incredibly strained medical systems and all of those types of
mm,
things too. And so this charity is looking to build a Canadian presence. And so my students are working on, studying compliance and regulatory issues and figuring out, okay, what do we need to know to set some kind of presence up here. They're also studying partners and funders that they could
mm,
potentially work with. They're looking at grants that they could apply for, many different areas that they can kind of figure out, okay, what can we do that will bring value to this client who is in Milan right now and doesn't actually know a lot of people in Canada outside of us. So
mm.
how can we support them in the best way possible? We're also working with a few local charities and nonprofits too. Christie Lake Kids
Yeah.
is awesome. I love working with them. They're such a great team. We're also working with one called Nutrition Blocks that
Mm,
helps provide culturally sensitive school lunch options to low income folks. And we're also working with another one called Immigrants Can, which is focused on helping new immigrants gain better employment outcomes, whether that's through entrepreneurship or through better jobs and such too. So yeah.
that's amazing. Have you tried to apply to be on this roster to hire management consulting students?
Oh goodness. So when we started, I was kind of like, I'm putting Connected Canadians on this list in case we don't get enough other ones. But
Oh,
it's kind of like the story of the shoemaker and the
yeah,
shoes. Like
yes.
I want my students to be able to help the other charities first. And if we end up having such a surplus of students and not enough charities, I can definitely come up with some projects for them, but it's important to me that they help other folks too. And me too. I'm always learning from my students and the charities that we work with. And it's also valuable for me to be able to learn how they do things too, because I find, it's just as valuable for me as a person and
Yeah.
as a student
Yeah.
to understand and learn these things too. So yeah.
That's amazing initiative. Like now, this is the time to tie the two and two together. What you are teaching in school, and
Hmm.
I'm assuming your PhD is primarily focused on entrepreneurship.
Actually, it's not.
Oh, okay.
So I'm focused on the digital inclusion of marginalized people. So,
Oh, that's
uh,
perfect.
so that's really interesting to me. It's also great because it means I can potentially use secondary data in terms of
Yeah,
the operational data that we've been collecting for years at Connected
yeah.
Canadians. But I obviously I'm very very interested in the ways that digital tools can allow people, especially people who are not quote unquote traditional leaders,
Mm,
be able to gain, power and influence in specific situations and gain the ability to present and to decide and to do all of the things that they might not necessarily have been able to do if they were working in a traditional office
mm.
with traditional business leaders as we know them. So
Wow. Oh my God, there's so much information, but it all now come together and it makes sense. And going back to the moment that you just got a contract from this elderly home, what trigger in your mind, or what did you do to reach to all these bigger corporations, or did they reach out to you?
It was a combination of both, actually. I definitely have had some success with LinkedIn, for example. That's
Ah,
always
okay.
been a great tool for me. I would say one of the great sort of takeaways that I managed to get from DJing for so many years and from being able to, I really built my DJ business up when I was younger using
Mm,
older forms of social media, and so I think from those experiences, I learned how helpful social media can be, whether it is LinkedIn or a different tool, to help you kind of make connections that you with people you wouldn't normally be able to access. And so,
mm,
for me, I always try to make sure that whichever students that I'm working with, they always
yeah.
they recognize the importance of that too. So, I think that very first home, I'm thinking back now, like I feel like they did actually start they liked our training so much that they recommended us to some other folks. I think YMCA in New Brunswick was one of the second clients or third clients after that,
Mm,
thanks to a referral like we get. I find especially with older adults, like a lot of the organizations that we work with are volunteering associations or senior societies that are all over Canada, and a lot of the time it's just straight up word of mouth. And to me, that's incredibly valuable because I know
mm.
then, they've had a really positive experience with Connected Canadians and they like it so much they're willing to go and tell somebody that they trust in another organization to work with us. But yes, I think that's a huge part. We certainly do a little bit of outreach too, using tools like HubSpot and so on too. But I would say definitely word of mouth has been one of our bigger ones.
Mm,
Um, Let me think of what else. Like I think um, hmm. Yeah, I think it's tricky because I've always wanted like, HubSpot and
yeah.
stuff. It's such a great tool, but at the same time, when you think about who you're working with, and how we educate people, like we're often telling people, like, if you're getting an email from somebody that you don't know, you should probably not open it and not read it. And so
Yep.
I'm well aware of that. And
Yep.
so it's like, how do we still manage, obviously we're not only dealing with one population, we're dealing with many
Mm,
different
mm,
folks,
mm.
but yeah, it's definitely those interpersonal relationships and people saying, "Hey, you should really think about Connected
Yeah.
Canadians if you're working with seniors."
Yeah.
So,
Well, you're filling. I would say your organization is filling the void that's much needed out there, and it's
mhm.
often overlooked. And you're, in a way, you're really just spreading out. Hey, this is the message, and if they come to you and say, like, we really need help doing the training, that's fantastic. But in a way, you're just raising the profile.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, I think a lot of the folks that work with us have just realized, like, oh my gosh, they've already figured out a lot of the best practices, and
Yeah.
this will save us years of labor of
Yeah.
like making the same mistakes. And so we can just incorporate this knowledge and build it into our training. So yeah.
Yes. So does the entrepreneur study
Yeah.
help with managing this organization altogether?
I would say, I mean, I think I actually only started teaching entrepreneurship this September, and
Mm.
it's been a learning experience for me too, because I'm also like, oh my goodness, I'm glad that I'm learning these things now because
Mm.
I can be more effective as an entrepreneur myself. But I think a lot of entrepreneurship just comes down to being able to take initiative and having that sense of what needs to be done, and having
Mm.
a really generous dose of common sense. Like
Yeah.
understanding, okay, like, did that go well? Did it not go well? Like, should I continue to reach out to this person? Those types of questions are, being able to market yourself properly
Mm.
and really having that persistence to not give up when things are tough. That's incredibly important. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of different frameworks and tool sets that
Mm.
one can use to visualize things and to plan better, and I appreciate those very much. And obviously in exercises like strategic planning and stuff like
Yeah.
that too, it's important to use those kinds of tools. But I think it is very much that sense of being able to keep going even when you're really scared and you're like,
Mm.
I don't know how this is gonna work out,
Yeah.
So it's I think that to me that's the one of the things that I always try to pass on to my students, as well as the fact that, whether they're creating a social impact organization or they're
Mm.
building a for-profit organization, ultimately you are trying to make money. And that's why I'm really excited when I get to teach business students, because I like to think I can influence some of them to be able to start social impact organizations too, because they can realize, yes, we can also make,
Mm.
a good living from something that actually helps people. We don't just have to be, soulless
Yes.
entities
Yeah.
churning out widgets to
Yeah.
generate funds. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, that it was such a pleasure talking to you because I'm really really thankful that you agreed to come on, and I've learned a few things from you. The conversation that we had as well. I think I can do more. I was like, I'm my already busy schedule. I'm looking at you. I'm like, I can do making bigger impact in people's lives. So thank you so much for coming on.
You're so welcome. That It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for considering me, and for Connected Canadians too. I'm always happy to get the word out about what we do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thanks. As we wrap up, I want to share a bit more about what we do at Otis Financial Solutions. For the past 18 years, Otis Financial Solutions has been dedicated to enhancing the financial management and strategic planning capabilities of hundreds of associations and nonprofits across Canada. Our extensive experience has enabled us to deliver tailored financial solutions that drive growth and enhance sustainability for nonprofits and associations. If you are interested in learning more about how Otis Financial Solutions can support your organization, I would love to offer you a no obligation 20-minute call. Let's discuss your unique challenges and explore how we would be able to help you achieve your goals.